I think it's about understanding your strengths. Like for me, I was a teacher. And so being personable is like a part of what makes a good teacher. And I think being personable is also a part of what makes a good entrepreneur too.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to New Money, where we talk to movers and shakers about how they made it. I'm your host, Rosemarie Miller, here with Abena Boamah-Acheampong, the founder and CEO of Hanahana Beauty. Thank you so much for joining me today, Abena.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, congratulations on celebrating 7 years of Hanahana Beauty.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about it. I'm like, honestly, glory to God, because I'm like, how did I get here? I've never would have thought, but they say 7 years is like around completion and elevation. So excited to see how this year continues to go.
And so can you tell us what exactly is Hanahana Beauty for those who don't know?
Yes. So Hanahana Beauty, for us, we are creating daily use body care products, but the focus is through the lens of humanity. And so what that means for us is how we source our raw materials all the way to how we create products. At the end of the day, I always say we don't want people to be ashy, and it's not just about the dry skin, but about like how you move through. So we source our shea directly from producers in Ghana, paying 2 times the asking price for raw materials. And then we're known for our shea body butters. Everything when you think of pre, during, and after shower experience, we're trying to create products that are there for people with sensitive skin, always having Black people in the mindset around product development, but then also just creating a space for like wellness throughout.
Yeah. So can you tell us, what does a day in Abena's life look like?
Yeah. Well, we're based in Chicago. I'm based in Chicago. Hanahana is in Chicago. And the day looks different, but I feel like it always starts out at this time. I've always had different morning routines. And I feel like for the past year, my morning routine is really like coming from a space of gratitude, and just like being able to feel aligned with faith. And then I get to make my way to work, which either I'm walking to our HQ, I'm either working with team, I'm either working by myself, I'm either having people from my community come in and co-work. And there's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of creativity. There's sometimes where I get to travel, like today. Sometimes my work is in Ghana. Sometimes my work, is all over. But I think what's great about being an entrepreneur in the beauty space is that it's never the same thing. There's always a difference. There's always some type of problem maybe that I'm trying to solve. But within the years, it's become more easeful to move through problem solving instead of feeling like it's a surprise.
Well, you said you start your mornings with gratitude, and I really love that because I do it too.
Yes.
What do you feel like you're most grateful for as you celebrate 7 years of having Hanahana Beauty?
Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful question. I would say I'm just grateful that from year 1 to year 7, I'm not the exact same person. I feel like I've grown. When you start entrepreneurship, you want to have all this control. You almost get like decision fatigued because you have to make all these decisions. You feel like everything's under you. You're learning how to manage team. You're learning how to manage your relationships, like from family, all these things. And sometimes you're a little bit self-centered within things. And I would say I'm happy that I've been able to grow as a founder, but in general, like as a person. And I think I've really have learned to release that control, and have like just build my faith. And like, I'm happy that I have my family, my friends are still here with me, and that I've been able to grow a larger community. But I honestly think the biggest thing for me is very much around like, okay, I know that I'm not the same person that I was even last year, the year before. And I'm like very much thankful to God around that. Because it's like, this wouldn't be here if it wasn't, And I feel like I'm still living out my purpose. I don't feel like I've lost that flair, like the flair in my purpose of what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Did you feel like that when you started Hanahana Beauty year 1?
I did. I think that, when I started Hanahana, I was teaching and I was completing grad school. And I knew that my purpose around that time was creating space for learning. And I thought that it meant to be in the school. Or that I thought that it would meant to transition into being a therapist. Hanahana during that time, when I started, was around the space of disruption, of like the beauty space that I saw and the lack of sustainability. And so I felt that I would be able to start living my purpose through this company in a way, but it was very much a side project. I very much was like, I want to start this, go back to Ghana, tell the stories about the women, learn, and just like share. And I think now it's the understanding of the scaling, the growth allows us to even have more impact in the communities that are sustaining us too.
So how did it go from a side project to your full-time job, and how long did that take?
Yeah, so 2017, from 2017 to 2018, I graduated from Loyola with my master's. I was a therapist. I had stopped teaching because, when you're doing your last year, you have to do full internship. And so basically, I remember during my internship, my first part of my internship, I actually changed internships. I was working at a healthcare center, and I had planned my first activation called The Process, which was showcasing the process of the producers, the women behind the production of shea butter. And I had scheduled that for December, and I told them I'm going to Ghana for 3 weeks because it's winter break. I was so used to like teaching breaks and things. They're like, well, you need to change your trip. And you need to like come back earlier. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to change my trip. And so they're like, well, I think that you're going to need to find a new internship. And I was like, okay. So I remember, I think for them, they didn't come at it as like thinking I would really do it. They thought I was going to change my trip. So within those weeks, I like found a new internship, went back to working in schools as like to complete my master's. Yeah. And I decided when I was completing my master's, you know what? When I'm done with graduation, I'm not going to apply for any more jobs. I'll study for my license, but I'll study for it in Ghana. And I'll just test out being in Ghana, building Hanahana, understanding the community in Tamale. And I moved to Ghana. I remember talking to my mom and dad about it. Yeah. I graduated that summer. I was like doing some community activations. I packed up all my stuff. I subleased my place, and I was like, I'll come back in 7 months.
How old were you at this time?
I think I was 25. Wait, I'm 33 now. So I think I was like 25 or 26.
25, 26.
Yeah, 25. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Those are really big decisions for a 25-year-old.
I know. You know what? Yes, but I also feel like the people that I look up to, like my parents, they made those big decisions too to follow their dreams with moving. My mom lived in London. My dad moved to the States. He lived in Nigeria. And they all did around those same ages, And so for me, even when I feel like a lot of the times when I spoke to them around this time, they're just cautious and to make sure that I but they still believed in me. Like that my parents believed in me from the beginning of the things I was doing. They might have not felt like every decision I made was what they would make, but I always felt like I had this example of knowing their story and like knowing that like for me going back to Ghana was like it's your family's there, even though I'm going back like the first time to live there as an adult is very different. But I always did feel this alignment around like my purpose and faith and things. And it was, when I tell you, I remember, I remember being like, you guys, I'm going to go to Ghana. I'm going to go on a first class tickets. Let me tell you, I'm a teacher in Chicago. I had like 3 different jobs. Where am I going to get first? I've never even, and then it was like my friend, my friend Sebla, she's Ethiopian and she was really working with the Ethiopian community, and Ethiopian Airlines was like, you know what, we want to work with someone that is an entrepreneur that flies back and forth to the continent. And so the first couple of trips back and forth to Ghana were all free. We're all free, flying first class. So I just felt like God was putting all the right things in my space. Like it was just like one thing after another. And like, yes, a lot of lessons were learned. Yeah. A lot of lessons were learned while living in Ghana. But from then 2018 to 2020, I was going back and forth. I mean, I didn't take my licensure. I just started back. And even when I lived in Ghana, I was still a therapist there. Like I was doing therapeutic work in Ghana for the first 6 months. And then after I was like, you know what? No, it's time to really focus in on like the creativity, the community building, the impact work that I wanted to. And that was the main reason for me to move back, was that when I was a teacher, I lived in the neighborhoods of my students so I could understand what's going on. I cannot build a company that's based on impact and work with people intimately if I'm not living close enough to be able to interact with them and build like our whole structure. And so that was the reason why I moved back, and it gave me the opportunity to really build out the foundations of Hanahana. So I always say that the first 3 years of Hanahana, I was not thinking about scaling. I was not thinking about capital, strategy, building in that way at all. It was really about building the foundation around our social impact and the identity of the brand.
And do you believe that's what makes Hanahana different? Because shea butter, there's a lot of different shea butter on the shea butter aisle.
Yes, there is, right? There's so many. And I definitely think that is. I feel like it's so funny. Like when I go into, these meetings with investors, they're like, what stands out with the brand? And I'm like, people are drawn to the brand through our mission, the quality of the product, and they see themselves in it. Yeah. And our mission has really separated us from a lot of different people. There's not a lot of people that can say that they go back and find producers that they work with directly. And then there are people that can. And I think that was mine, was like to show people the whole route of, I didn't know that it was this big thing at the time, but it was just to show people like, hey, I want to meet the producers. I want to know exactly who is creating the products. And also, this is not sustainable. So how can we create sustainable ways within supply chain that are effective for everyone? Because at the end of the day, the qualities of our finished goods are because of the quality of the raw materials. So the give back shouldn't be like a second thought. It should be within your plan. It should be within the strategy. And that's how I kind of came about it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're not really selling the product. You're selling the mission. That's interesting. Like what tips do you have for entrepreneurs out there who are creating a product? What do you have to say about that?
I think it's both. I think at a time I was just selling the mission, but not even intentionally. I think it's about being strategic about selling both the mission and product. Yeah. I feel like that is something that we are in this space right now, where it's like, okay, you can trust that the mission, we're actually doing the work that we're doing. So like going through the process now, we're going through the process of becoming a B Corp. We have like our nonprofit that we're establishing, like all those things. But at the end of the day, you know that when you use the product, it's going to work too. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a twofold. I think it's being able to, again, it's a lot when, you're a young entrepreneur, but being able to tell that story. Marketing is a very important thing, and not moving from a space of scarcity too. Yeah. I didn't have all the money in the world when this started. I tell people when I first started, like my first year, I think I made under 20K, and definitely we've grown to now a multi-million company, but it's been, I think I just didn't move in scarcity when telling people the whole story of the brand and being able to tell that story quickly. We have 20 minutes to get to talk about this where I can share it all, but being able to grab someone by saying, we pay 2 times the asking price and we're not ashy. It's like, oh, I want to hear more. I want to learn more. I want to try. I want to see what you guys are doing. So
you have a multi-million-dollar company, and you really only focus on a few products it's one product, right?
It's a few. So we have our Shea Body Butters, which is 6 different scents. We also have minis. We have a 2-in-1 bar, which is like in the shower, after shower experience and skin nutrition. And we're currently working on a body wash right now. And we just launched a collab with a fragrance. So it's a couple of different products.
A few products in a multi-million-dollar business.
Which is so scary to even say.
Yes.
Like when you said that out loud, I'm like, oh my goodness.
How did you make this happen? I mean, give us some tips.
It's really about team and community and like trying out. I think at the end of the day, as consumer, like I'm a consumer, I want products that work. And when I started making our Shea Body Butters that are now like, have been formulated to what we use, it was because I was in Chicago it was cold, it was windy, my skin was dry. Like, you're a 7th grade math teacher. You can't come in the classroom with ashy skin. Like, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
And I think there's a lot of us that feel that way. Like, not exact, but you want to glow, and you want to glow from the inside, outside, all of it. And like, we create products and we create this like feeling, I would say, with Hanahana, where you feel good. And so it's from the products itself to the activations that we do. Like, we recently did a full day wellness studio, and that itself was a marketing, right? Because now there's people that came to this event that are sharing about, wow, I left feeling so full. I left with community. And I think it's really about building like a universe around the brand. I think the most successful brands are building this like level of like tapping in. I don't even think it's tapping into culture. I think they're creating culture within the brand itself, and they're a part of it. And so for us, we really build our products and everything based off of like our community. And that's something that now, as we're scaling and growing, it's really, looking at how do you bring in capital, the right community, the right investors to really help grow the brand to even be bigger,
And so speaking of capital and investors, what advice do you have for Black women who are fundraising?
Oh, I need advice myself. So, I think every journey is very different. But I do think that it's sometimes better, they say this, like, it's better to get a no than just like someone straggling you along. And I think like you set your foot forward. Like when I went into investing or fundraising, I started in the end of 2021, like getting prepped and ready, probably having conversations way before I even thought, like 2021, 2022, and got like our first check in 2022. And our first check was from a Black woman. And I still, to this day, it's always a little bit of a struggle because like I have in the back of my head, like, don't ask people for money, like I will have to owe you. But I think you have to look at it as not a game, because a lot of these investors do look at it sometimes as a game, but this is your business and not everyone deserves to put money into your business instead of looking at it as like, I need. Yeah. And I think being able to have that vision starting in is good. I think being able to feel as prepared and understand your brand, understand that investors are looking to make money, So as much as your mission and the story and the branding, all that is great, it's about what's the return. And I think that's a very different conversation or like the thought process when you're a founder, when you're like, I've built this, like, why wouldn't you want to invest? But just understanding that, I think having mentors, just being able to create relationships. A lot of the money that I've received are through like, good building relationships. And we've pivoted a bit with our fundraising where we were able to raise over $400,000 through VC and angel investors. But now we've pivoted where we're like, you know what? I'm giving all these VCs the opportunities, or angel investors the opportunity to build and grow with us. Why don't I give my customers the opportunity to also have equity in the brand? So we recently launched our WeFunder, which now allows our customers to have the opportunity for equity in the brand, and to really raise from that point. Because I also don't think that every brand needs to raise through the VC or angel investor route. And sometimes I think like I did it because I didn't really know all the other things of how to. And that's what I was hearing. But now as like, I'm in this space, I really just wanted to look at our strengths, and our strengths are our community, and they want to put their dollars too. They want to be a part. And I don't think a lot of the time, to become an accredited investor, you have a certain amount of money, and not all of our customers are that. But WeFunder gives the opportunity where we can open up the raise to our community and they can invest in. So, yeah.
So you said your strength is communities, and you also hinted at, building relationships. That's so important for you. That's not as easy as a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Networking, building relationships, and And being a person or being an owner who pours into communities and actually gets back from communities, that's not so normal. It's not so easy. So what strategies do you have for building relationships and navigating communities?
I think it's about understanding your strengths. Like for me, I was a teacher, and so being personable is like a part of what makes a good teacher. And I think being personable is also a part of what makes a good entrepreneur too. You have to I'm not the best salesperson in the world, but I know how to tell you a story. I know how to listen and take things in. And I think a lot of the times with building relationships is around listening and understanding where you're going for things. I remember I used to think okay, when I meet an investor, I need to tell them right away about my pitch. And it's no, listen to what they're doing and try to gather on, and then let them ask you, let them be more excited. And I think it's about being patient. I always say to people, entrepreneurship is really about prioritizing your growth before prioritizing your business. Because if you're able to prioritize your growth, it does go slowly or aligned within the business of things. And so I think also when building community is look at your community around, which sometimes feels very, especially as Black founders, we're you'll hear someone doing your family and friends raise, and you're who is about to invest in me in this way? And it's not exactly building community of just to have money, but building community of people to talk about the product that you have. If you're a CPG, building community to let people know what's going on so they can connect you to whoever. Or anytime you're in front of someone, not forcibly sharing about your brand, but allowing yourself to show, because at the end of the day, you yourself are a brand, or you're a representation of your brand too. I mean, for me, it's even my skin is a representation of my brand. So if someone asks me, oh my gosh, your skin looks good, or what is that? Or you smell so good, what is that? I start, and they're wait, what? And just building off that way. But I think it's really building off your strengths, to understand what your strengths are, understand what your weaknesses are, and really being able to play off of both of those things when, growing. If I wasn't the best at community building, I bring someone in and, to help with that. I think it's about team and how you learn how to manage and bring different people in. It's a whole, I think entrepreneurship is just a growing experience over and over and over. And it's you learn from this lesson or you don't. And with that is you have to really understand what you're good at the end of the day.
You said family and friends. You're talking about the discount. And I guess that made me think of this question. When you first started your business, who were your biggest supporters? Was it your family and friends, or was it strangers?
I think it was both. I mean, my dad is the one who helped me come up with the name Hanahana. So he I came to my parents to let them know I wanted to start the business. So they were supporting me from the beginning. My brother supported me from the beginning. I don't think I had that story where I'm oh, my family didn't get it type of thing, And then strangers supported it from the beginning. Friends, the reason why the brand even came off the ground is because I kept getting from friends, family, different people that would just use the product that I was creating for myself, be you should make this into a business. You should make this into a business. And so I would say that I was receiving a lot of support from the beginning from my full community and just creating community. There's people that still use Hanahana that were using Hanahana in 2017, and I think that's the big thing about the brand is that the product does work at the end of the day, so people keep coming back.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Especially I go to my go-to products and I don't switch. I do not switch.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the money. So, Abena, how did you learn how to manage your money?
Oh my goodness. I am still learning. I've had different accountants. My dad was an actuary, so he's always told me around saving and making sure you have insurance, all these different things. So I think I came from I've come from numbers in that way, but again, I didn't go to business school. So a lot of the things I've been learning as I go. I've had really great mentorships, advisors that have really helped me, especially in the past year, to really understand my finances and know what that means. In the beginning, I had everything mixed up, Hanahana personal, all the stuff you didn't know, and then being able to move and have really great accountants. I always say, spend money on that, a good accountant, because not only will they make sure you have money or what you're doing with your money is going right, but they will help you understand. And advisors. I have a really amazing advisor where we can go through our numbers. I understand my P&L sheet. I understand what I'm spending, where the money is going. I think there was a time where I didn't fully have an understanding, and I'll be like, where did all the money go? And so it's really been a learning experience for sure. Because, I don't have a co-founder. I don't have like a finance person that I've started this brand in. It's been a lot of learning as I'm going. There was a time where I was just spending so much more money on team because I wanted to keep people. I wanted to make sure I was like putting jobs and all these things. And then it was like, wait, but you're not even paying yourself. So like, what are we doing here? Like you have to really, like the health of you is also the health of the company itself. And so I really surround myself with a lot of great advisors to really be able to understand finances, because I would say that, and even investors that have invested into us that have become advisors, to really understand and know like, okay, if you have this amount of money, where does it go? And like recently we won the 15% Achievement Award, which is like $200,000. I've never been given straight just $200,000 or won something. And for me, the biggest thing was like being able to know how that money would be used. And also like understanding debt, credit, all those things. Like, we try to stay away from debt so much when you're growing up. But in business, it's a thing. Like credit is a thing. Having debt is a thing. And being able to learn how to keep and have those conversations with your vendors, just like honest conversations with people. It's been a year of growth, when there's numbers that I never saw before that I didn't even know we could get. So being able to have that understanding. Yeah.
So where do you invest your money?
Right now, my investment goes right back into Hanahana at this time. Everything from my own upkeeping goes back into Hanahana. I'm not in a space just yet where I'm able to start investing outwardly. And I'm excited to get to that stage. I think for right now with Hanahana is really about how do we scale in a way that also allows me to be able to scale too, right? And for me, like scaling for Hanahana means we're able to scale our impact. I think Hanahana is just one business that I'll have. I hope that I have the opportunity for other things too. But I think this has definitely been just a big learning experience for me. I say that a lot, but because like I've never done this. A lot of us go into entrepreneurship, we've never done this. We're just like, whoa, okay, here we are.
It's our first time living life. It's all of our first time.
Yeah, it's my first time. Like this is a 7-year-old child, basically. Like it's just we're just like oiling it up. And I think sometimes when we're in this space of where we're at, social media, all the different things, you think like a brand grows, boom, and then they're like billions of dollars and this and that and this and that. And I think for me, it's just like continuously growing. Like I recently, a couple of years ago, like last year to like understood how much money we've actually made all together. And I thought I was like belittling myself at first until I actually spoke with our advisor. We're like, look, this is how much you've made since you started. Like, okay. And I'm like, oh, wow. I didn't even think to like, I'm only looking at it annually of how much but like to really look at the progression and the understanding of it. But yeah, it's very much learning finance. I get nervous even coming on here. I was like, new money. I don't know, girl. I don't know about this. I never talk about money, but I think it's really it's not exactly that I have to talk about the dollar amount, but knowing that like I'm not where I want to be just yet either. You know, but I'm also happy with where I'm at this time too. But I have goals, financial goals for myself personally, but I have financial goals for Hanahana. Like you see brands like Honey Pot that are getting acquisition, My and I'm like, wow, like I hope to get to a point like that. But you also know that it took time for them to get to points like that, you know? Yeah.
And for you to even get on the show and say that,
Yeah.
that's so bold. And I really do appreciate that honesty. I appreciate it. You're not up here flexing. Well, we ask every guest this. What has been the smartest and the dumbest purchase you've made since acquiring your wealth?
Whew, okay. The smartest purchase. I know I watched you asking questions like, what has been my smartest purchase? You know, my smartest purchase was separating my personal and my business. I used to live out of our HQ. I was doing everything, you know, and me actually making the decision to move and start paying rent at a new place, I think has been one of the smartest purchases, for sure. Dumbest purchases. You know, I spent some thousands working with the agency before, and I wish that $20,000 would have been spent just working back within my community of people. But I made that decision, and I didn't have the voice up to be like, you know what, this isn't working. I just kept moving through and going through with it. And so I would say that was one of the decisions I wish I could take back. Again, I just had this conversation with a friend who's also an entrepreneur where I was like, there's things I regret. And she's like, no, nothing. You actually shouldn't regret anything because it helps you now take time to refocus how you spend your money. And I think when it comes to money and things, there's probably other stuff that I spent on that I'm like, but it's allowed me now to be very careful about how I spend. And also, you know, they always say, slow to hire, fast to fire. That was not something I lived by before, but it's something I'm definitely living by now.
Well, what is your best piece of advice for beauty entrepreneurs who are trying to get to where you are today?
I think I said this before, but I really do think it's about, with any entrepreneur, is really taking the time to move through a space of gratitude, I think. And to have gratitude means you have to also reflect. So taking time to reflect. And I think it's important. It's a little bit more of a self thing than like business probably in that sense. But I truly believe it's around this space of like, you have to really prioritize your growth to move through, you know, and not allow the glitz and glamour or the problems overshadow everything. And I think gratitude and reflection really helps with that.
I wrote that down. To have gratitude, you have to reflect. And that's so true. And it's something I've never really thought about. But that is true. I have to take moments to reflect.
Yeah.
Truly be grateful.
Yeah, because you might look at your bank account one day and you be like, okay, I don't know. But then you have to go back. You have to go back. You know, and there's the ups and downs. I think that's the thing. No one talks about that fully, but entrepreneurship is the ups and downs. I remember listening to How I Built This, and I think it was the guy that founded Hoover. And they said for 7 years he was living in his wife's parents' home trying to figure out the Hoover. And people kept on laughing at him like, wow, you're this big scientist, da-da-da-da. And then on the 7th year is when Hoover, like I think actually, or Dyson or Hoover, one of them, oh, he's going to be upset. But then it became what it is, like started of what it is today. So I think it's just like one thing about entrepreneurship, it's a very inconsistent space, you know? So allow yourself to roll through with the ebbs and flows and not allow it to take over in that sense. And that's something that I'm learning every day.
You know, and that's a full circle moment. That's 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once again, congratulations on 7 years of Hanahana Beauty.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
For sure.